Parent phone calls. It's part of the job. A lot of people get a little bit of anxiety or nervous before making parent phone calls, partially because they don't know what to expect. But it is part of the job. If we're doing our jobs properly, we need to inform the parents and keep them up to speed and updated with what their students are doing as far as progress, especially those students who are struggling or are showing some classroom behavior issues. So I'm going to give you some strategies and tips as to how to make those phone calls. I'm going to give you a couple of really neat ideas that you may not have thought of. You may be using them, but I'm guessing a lot of people have not thought of these yet that I've used and had some success with. And I'm going to help set you up for success with these parent phone calls. Again, they don't have to be unpleasant. And I'm going to share a couple of stories with you of examples of ways where the parent phone call went much different than I thought it would. All right, there are three main types of parent phone calls. There's updates that can be positive or negative, immediate action needed. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then my secret weapon, the positive phone call home. And I've talked about this in several other videos, but it's a very, very powerful weapon that I want to make you aware. I'll also throw in a fourth creative idea for you, but it only can work if you have a positive relationship going with the parents ahead of time. So updates, they can be positive, they can be negative. If a student is not performing well with grades, you need to keep the parent updated so they're not blindsided. If they're not behaving properly in class, you need to keep them updated so they're not caught off guard if you have to put out the kid on discipline referral or call home. It's all about communication. Updates is all about communication. You might need to keep a parent updated with IEPs and different things. So updates, it's basically about communication. And if you maintain a lot of updates, you're going to have a lot less problems. Then there's the immediate action needed. The student is doing something that is inappropriate, or they're not on task, or something that can be rectified with an immediate phone call home. And this can be one of the most effective phone calls if you handle it properly, especially if you've spent some time building rapport with the parent. Give you an example. I was teaching a reading class to our seniors probably about 10 years ago who needed to pass the reading exam to graduate. And so these kids could have dropped out if they wanted to. But they were there, so they wanted to pass, they wanted to get their diploma, so they were motivated. So I was really kind of caught off guard and stunned when this one girl looked at me and she goes, "I'm not going to read. You can't make me read." And I said, "Okay, then first of all, why are you here? But I need to talk to somebody. Do you want me to talk? Who do you want me to talk to? A parent?" And she goes, "I want you to talk to my grandma." I go, "Okay, so it's your grandma's number." I wrote it down. I called her grandma. And I picked up the phone and I said, "You know what, student X, it's for you." And I handed her the phone. And again, that's one of my favorite things. If you have built a relationship with the parent, my favorite thing to say is, student Y is not on task right now. Can you handle it for me? And you usually hear, "Yes, I'll take care of it." And then I look at the student, I'll call them to my desk and I'll say, "It's for you." So, the student came up to my desk. You could hear some yelling going on. She returned to her desk and she worked hard for the rest of the week. It was a very effective means. I try not to do that too much, but once in a while, if you do it, it can be very effective. And if the other students see that you're willing to do that, it can carry you for a while before you have to make another phone call like that. And then the secret weapon, the positive phone call home. Especially for those students that there's a high probability that at some point over the course of the year, you're going to have to call home about something. Find a reason, any reason, even if they make it through one class where they're on task 100% of the time, or even 90% of the time, or they handed in an assignment for full credit, call home and say, "Hey, your student was a role model today. He or she was on task the entire class period. I just wanted to let you know that when your student gets home, please congratulate them for a good day of school today for me." And I did this, and I've talked about this in a different video. I can tell you several stories, but this is one of my favorites. And student was misbehaving. I called home about 3 weeks, and what I used to do is do positive phone calls on Fridays. On Fridays, I would select 3 students from each class, and I would call home about something positive. And I would take student input. If students wanted me to call home, I would tell them, give me a reason. So with this particular student, I called home one Friday, and about 5 weeks later, he just refused to be on task. And I was like, okay. I called home, and the parent on the other end of the phone goes, put him on. And I go, okay. And I look at him, I go, it's for you. And I could hear her screaming at the student, what are you doing? That is the one teacher who actually likes you. So you need to get back on task and work now. It was awesome. You want to talk about effectiveness. Oh, by the way, when you do that type of phone call and you call a student to your desk and say it's for you, literally you can hear a pin drop in the classroom as everybody's listening to see what's going to happen next. So again, it's an effective tool to show the students that we're here to work. All right, but it only works if you've had that positive interaction before. Again, another bonus, and this is really creative. It's important to build those relationships with the parents because we're on the same team. We want the same thing. We want successful, productive citizens. That's what we're creating here. And if you've made the positive phone call home, you can ask a parent for their phone number, for their email. You should have all that stuff anyhow. But let them know that there's going to be occasions when your student is not on task, and I'll email you and let you know that your student's not on task. And the next thing is just awesome. Text a student and let them know to get back on task in Mr. Cole's class. And especially if you shoot that email over, I'll send an email over to a parent that says, hey, if you get this in the next 5 to 15 minutes, your student is not on task right now, and it would be absolutely inspirational if you could shoot him or her a text and say, get back on track in Mr. Cole's class right now. And when that happens, you can see students, they're just stunned. Their eyes look like Bambi's. And they're like, all right, I get the message. You guys are definitely on the same team. I also do that because I have such a great rapport with my students I've built up over the years. I'm friends with a lot of them on social media. I will not allow a student to contact me on social media before they graduate, but once they cross the stage, I allow them to contact me. And if I have younger siblings, a lot of times I'll contact the older siblings through social media and say, hey, if you get this message in the next 10 to 15 minutes, tell your little brother or sister to get on task in Mr. Cole's class or else. And you can see when they get the text, the kids will start laughing. Okay, Mr. Cole, I get it. I get it. You're a legend in our household. I will do it. Thank you. Parent phone calls can be very, very emotional. Remember, these parents are invested. This is the greatest asset that these people have, and most parents would risk or trade their life for their child if they had to. So there's nothing that's going to be as emotional as a parent conference. So you want to handle it as best you can, and you want to keep it as positive as you can. But I would tell you, if you think it's going to be a negative conference or telephone call, keep it clinical. Keep it clinical. Share data and facts. Um, don't give the parents anything to be upset about. And the fact that if there's an IEP out there, make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you don't get caught off guard finding out there's accommodations or modifications that you're not aware of. You should definitely be aware of those things. So if you're going to make a parent phone call, you need to be prepared. You need to pull the attendance. You need to pull the grade. You need to make note of any referrals that you're aware of. Make sure if there's an IEP or anything else that you need to be aware of that you are in compliance and understand it. And then just share facts. That's all you can do. And really, really remind the parent that we're a team. We want the same thing here. We're trying to educate a student to become a productive member of society. So we want the same thing. I always remind parents that we are a team. We're working on this together. And I understand, I've had parent phone calls go over an hour before, and it's amazing some of the things that they will share with you. And again, I'm not going to get invested in their personal situations. That's not my place, but it does give you some reference of what's going on with the student. Keep it clinical. If the conversation starts to go poorly, it's time to shut it down. The moment it starts getting personal or you feel like the conversation is going poorly, just professionally tell the parent, look, I've shared the facts with you. I've given you the data. We need to set up a parent conference through guidance so that everybody can give you some input as to what's going on here. And that's the next step. That way you can have a guidance counselor and even an administrator in there if you need to for the conference. But don't take it personal. And if it starts going bad, shut it down, set up a conference on the school grounds. My first year teaching had a student in the keyboard class I was actually teaching, and he refused to do his work. And I looked at him and I go, student Z, you need to do your work. He's like, not doing it today. And I go, you need to do your work, otherwise I'm going to be forced to take action. He goes, what are you going to do? What you think you can make me keyboard today? And I go, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So again, I had a good relationship with the parent, and I called home and I called student Z up to my desk and I go, student Z, it's for you. And he walks up and he answers the phone and he goes, hello, mother dearest. She was screaming so loud, you could hear her anywhere in the class. And like I said, when these phone calls go down, typically you could hear a pin drop. Everybody stopped typing on their keyboards. So literally everyone in the class could hear it as he literally, and I kid you not, this is no exaggeration, he had to pull the phone away from his ear. She was yelling at him so loud. So he goes home, this is on a Friday. He goes home and he comes back on Monday, and I go, was everything okay this weekend? What happened? And he goes, Mr. Cole, I was grounded from the Super Bowl. I was not allowed to watch the Super Bowl for the weekend. I'm like, oh, wow, that's brutal. If I'd known that, maybe I would have waited till Monday to make a phone call or something. But yeah, it's that was pretty brutal. He was grounded from the Super Bowl. I guess if you're not doing your work in class, it warrants missing the Super Bowl. So just another example of the power of having a great relationship with the parents and keeping them in the loop on things. All right, if you've learned anything from this video, please like it and consider subscribing as I continue to share these different best practices. And like I've said, I will try to think of at least one or two examples of funny stories that I can incorporate or important stories that I can incorporate. I've been doing this 24 years, actually going into my 25th year. So I've seen a lot of stuff. So if you're a teacher, you're a hero, and I thank you for what you do, and I'm proud to call you a colleague. All right, Cole out.